So it looks like we're in one of those deep parallel mind fucks of the internet, of YouTube, where that sometimes you're just bored or click on something that's odd, and then you click on the what's trending in YouTube, and you see some really crazy things pop up. And I'll tell you what, there is something called the Mandela effect, where the the past leader of South Africa passed away in 2013 from illness, and people believe that he died in the 1980s, sometime in the 1980s in prison. He passed away there. There's a group of people on the planet that believe he passed away in the 1980s in prison when he actually died in 2013 from an illness. His face is well known in media and in some movies, actually. And I believe people probably remember him from certain political movies, and that's probably where they got that fact wrong. I believe that it was in a movie somewhere. I think I remember him dying in the movie, and that was kind of like where that probably came from. But the Mandela effect is interesting reading. It goes on to about what is cognitive dissonance, and what that means is that basically the way we learn things and come about information is different than the reality and the situation, and that it ties into emotional intelligence of like how we are beings. Sometimes we're not connected to what's actually going on. Sometimes we're really in the moment, and how we actually feel at a moment, it affects our ability to remember those things. And that people who might be in the same room remember a situation of, say, like a movie, and then they remember quotes that are different. If you really want to see some crazy videos, go on YouTube and type in the Mandela effect, and you'll see like all kinds of crazy things popping up. Or even news reporters got facts wrong. There's some things that are pretty interesting, like the Field of Dreams movie from 1989, which, wow, it's a long time ago, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't. And when I was young, I remember watching that with my parents, and the quote is, and I always said this to my friends when I was DJing in Pennsylvania, build it and they will come. And I was quoting basically the funniness of that, or that I built my business and they will come. And I believe that in my heart to be the true quote from the movie. But I look at the Fandango, which is the movie review website, where it even shows that build it and he will come, referring to the baseball player that passed away in the movie, that would come back from his grave to bring back the passion of the sport in baseball, which is what the movie was all about. And there's going on to like all kinds of media referring back to the movie and getting the quote wrong, which is pretty interesting. But I think what we have to understand is that media and Hollywood and people and the way we see things in the past, recent past, without the internet, the ability to research things on a command, we're all human, and that we do sometimes remember things differently, and that there is something actually called cognitive dissonance. Even before the quote-unquote Mandela effect, I would say that there's always been media manipulation, and that a prime example of that is our history with Germany and what they did in the Cold War. And before that, there's always been propaganda, and that propaganda can change a country in a flip. If all the radio stations and TV stations were able to be controlled in one moment, you can really control the masses that way. And to believe that actually doesn't take place, I will tell you that the military does have things in effect where they fly planes over populations and take over TV and radio stations and broadcast misinformation in wartime. That's common. That's always been known to be true. It's just not really a fact that people realize, because that's not one of the things that we really publish. I mean, it's known that it happens, but if it were to happen here or there or anywhere, you wouldn't realize it. It's not designed to be to be aware of the situation. The thing is, understanding how broadcast works, you watch TV, you think it's live. A lot of people aren't live on TV. I could be recording this right now and broadcast it later on a broadcast automation software, and you would see me as quote unquote live. For the first time you would see me, you would believe I'm live, and you wouldn't know the difference just on the presentation alone, how I present that information to you. So how we learn information into reality, to what it actually is going on. If you were in this room with me, you would see things a little bit differently than you would if you're watching this video, and that's just because of reality versus how you're learning about what's going on in this room right now is how I'm presenting the information to you. So that's something called cognitive dissonance, and that's psychology. And what's interesting is the Nelson Mandela effect is just wow. And they bring it right into CERN. And CERN and multi-mechanics and quasi-mechanics and perverse realities of ourselves and our past, and the people remember things that didn't actually happen in the masses, and they're just, when people don't understand something, they have to come up with an answer to something that is a kind of a mystery, and people will go far lengths to explain something they don't understand to be true or correct, and when in reality it's just simple. We may not understand it. And just to be able to say, hey, I don't know, is not easy for a lot of people. And sometimes even for me. But the thing is that what I've learned in doing security work for 5 years, in my training for the state, I had to basically watch a movie on a jury that was trying to convict somebody that was innocent, and that they got the facts wrong. Because everybody that was a witness in the jury, the witnesses came in and explained the situation, but everybody painted the picture a little bit differently, and some people painted the guy with the weapon, without the weapon, so they couldn't prove it without an unreasonable doubt, it being fact, so they had to let it fly, that this guy didn't get convicted. So what I'm trying to say is that if something's happening, you need to remember specifics as it's happening and kind of like put it in your mind, and you need to practice this. It's not something that's easily done. Most people see things and go, whatever. But in that moment, people can sneak things past you you may not realize or see. And if you kind of pay attention to the little details, you'll notice so much. If you make a mental note and say to yourself what color something is, or what size something is, or what direction something might be pointed, or just a little detail, that might lead you to so much more information that you may not have realized at first. But just to be realized that we're human, that when we see things, there's so much information presented to us that we may not know, and to being okay to not knowing, but to being aware of our situation and trust our gut. I think that's the big thing. And that I will say this, that I've become pretty good at detecting things, minute details, and just making mental notes. But even in that, your mental notes can go away pretty quick. So you got to write things down, jot down notes of time, places, and things. And that has to be done, or else you will forget details. It's just the way we work. We always move forward. We always get more information as time moves forward, and the way we presented information versus how things are perceived, the Mandela effect, it makes sense. They say that Luke, I am your father, is what most people remember from the movie, and then there's all kinds of crazy stuff that says, no, I am your father, from Star Wars, the most watched pretty much movie of all time across a bunch of generations. So check that out. It's interesting. And as always, download the DJ Crazy Jimmy app on the Google Play Store. Shameless plug to my internet radio stations, djcrazyjimmy.com.